Well, welcome to the Sports Wrap with George Ringer.
Here we go again.
Here we go again. This must be a show like at least 20 now, because if we do the math, and you know I like to do the math.
You do.
So September, October, November, December, January, and almost February. So we're getting.
We've been real consistent. I think we've taken 1 week off.
Yeah, and we're gonna take next week off. So just so everybody knows, if you're looking, and I don't know why you would be, but in case you are, we're gonna take next week off with the playoffs and parent-teacher conferences next week. Schedule's just a little bit too busy to squeeze it in, so we'll take a break.
I had a friend of mine say to me last week, 3 o'clock in the morning, and his partner wasn't with him. And he goes downstairs, and there she was. She says, there she is, watching you on TV. And he's looking like, I said, well, that's okay. We have a lot of good fans that watch at 3 o'clock in the morning. So
I guess whatever. I don't know how to respond to that, but thanks for watching.
Yeah, we are affecting the culture.
So, well, you said you had a bunch of weird stuff.
I do. I don't even know where to start. The weird stuff is kind of all on the bottom.
I kind of made a list, and of course the number one thing that I could think of when I made my list today was the Houston Astros.
Well,
and this has kind of been on our radar for weeks now.
And it's not going away.
And it's not going away because, well, let's just say that the Houston Astros were less than. What's the right word? Less than contrite? Is that the right word? Is that too big a word?
I'm telling you, apologies just don't do it at this point.
Well, but you got to admit that you did it, and you got caught, and you kind of sound whatever, and then everybody kind of came out, and Trevor Bauer came out last week, and then Aaron Judge came out early this week.
Aaron Judge and LeBron James have an article in the New York Times. I mean, the New York Times is following this stuff from point A to point B, and LeBron James and the rest of professional sports should be concerned about this.
Because what's going to happen the next time that it happens? Because Rob Manfred basically said that the World Series trophy is a piece of metal, which he's already apologized for.
He's really in the 8 ball behind with that.
You just can't seem. It just seems to keep getting worse and worse, and they can't get out. They can't get out of their own way of making it more of a mess. They came out last week, and Altuve wasn't a part of it, and the whole 9 yards, but he couldn't take off his jersey out in the field because it was because of a tattoo, which.
I didn't buy that either.
So it just won't go away, and I don't know if necessarily it needs to go away. I think it was brought out that basically over the weekend, I think that the Houston Astros players are going to have to pay for this. And seeing as how baseball didn't take care of it, and Dusty Baker came out and said, we got to protect my players essentially, and I don't think that's going to do it. Till somebody gets suspended, other than the managers and the general managers and the owner gets his $5 million fine, which is a drop in the bucket, until baseball does something more, they're going to get beamed. They
got caught cheating. And it's just like every other time you take a look at the history of baseball, people cheat, they get in a lot of trouble. And I mean, we can stun and argue about Shoeless Joe in 1919 or Pete Rose in 1978. I think that a lot of times what happened to Pete Rose was a direct shot of what happened to Curt Flood with Minnesota, with Major League Baseball. And Major League Baseball said, we're going to grab these people by the throat, otherwise we're going to lose the whole deal. And because of at least Curt Flood, these people are making some pretty good money now, and they're not just interns on whatever club system they have going for them. And baseball didn't like that.
Bauer came out and basically said, you took away possibly Aaron Judge's MVP award.
Yeah.
Well, think what that would do to his contract. He's already going to be making lots of money, folks. Don't get me wrong, but when you put another $3, $4, $5 million on a career that might go 10, 15 years.
No.
that's another $50 million that he could give away to somebody and do something with. To me, they're right on the head. In Houston, every time they get in the batter's box, they better have the piece of thing in front of their face, and they better be ready that the first pitch could be coming at their body someplace. And unfortunately, every time that somebody slides into second or third base or home plate, I think you better be ready because you're going to get a spike in the wherever.
Yeah.
And I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying it's right. But there are these unwritten rules that things have to be taken care of, and unfortunately, there's at least 14 teams in the American League that they will play that will want a shot at them, and there's going to be 4 teams in the National League that are also going to get a chance to make some hay on them.
I can't remember who it was, but one guy said, if I would have known what they knew, I would have hit 80 home runs.
Giancarlo Stanton said that yesterday, that they asked him, well, what would have happened if you hit 59 home runs that year or 57? What would have happened if you'd known what pitch was coming? And he kind of like, well, the way I was seeing the ball then, I probably would have hit 80, maybe more. Yeah. And that's the truth. It's that big of a deal. If you know where the pitch is coming, if you know it's fastball or curveball, do you know how much that takes off of what your thought processes are? It's huge. So.
And I'll tell you, I mean, it's kind of like say it ain't so, Joe, because Houston was one of my favorite teams. Altuve, one of my favorite baseball players. They had pitchers that you enjoyed watching. Yeah, they struck everybody out, but they had all these things, and they didn't have to cheat, Tim.
That's probably the biggest part about it. They probably didn't have to cheat to win, and that's what they're trying to defend. Well, we won on the road too, and we did it without our cheating and everything else. Yeah, okay. That's what you say. I don't believe a word.
No, I don't either.
Are we done with the Astros?
We can go past that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this thing will go away, but it seems like we just it's got wheels of its own. I see Gopher M's. I see Minnesota M's up on your piece of paper.
They are.
What a bad week.
I was just cringing over the kicking that Iowa give both the wrestling team and the wrestling team. Did I say that? And the basketball team as well. And it just seemed like Luka Garza had our number, and 8 out of 10 Hawkeyes had our wrestlers. And I mean, you got Mitch McKee getting pinned. You got Satsky getting pinned.
Taking a forfeit at 125 again.
You never did care for that.
I didn't care for that, and they explained it on the Big Ten Network that you didn't want to give the Iowa crowd any more enthusiasm, and I'm like, no. Well, they're already cranked up. You probably didn't matter what.
Iowa booed. They are there to see wrestling, and you that's like that's like surrendering, and you don't ever surrender. You get beaten, but you don't ever surrender. Now I have to say this that my friend Gable Steveson, he won his 13th, and he wrestled.
A very close match.
Cassiope. And Cassioppe's number 3 in the nation. In between is Mason Paris, who I've mentioned on this show before, and they're all going to be hooking up here a week from Saturday at the Big Ten tournament. That's going to be a dandy, and if it wasn't in New Jersey, I would probably go.
Yeah, I hear you there.
The Big Ten tournament is really something to watch, and then of course 2 weeks after that we'll go down for the big show.
We'll go down for the big show. Yeah, to me the wrestlers, like I said this last week. Iowa, Penn State, Ohio State, top 3, and then everybody else is hanging in there. And Gable, like I said, he was the number 3 wrestler in the nation. He wasn't super impressive, but he just got the job done.
He did.
It's almost like. But they had an article in the Minneapolis paper, I don't know if it was on Sunday this week or whatever, about swimmers and gymnasts and wrestlers getting ready for the Olympics and whether they participate this season. And the U's got a men's gymnast who is competing for the Gophers and who is also trying to get ready for the Olympic trials and is going to school. And so they were talking about what a stress that was. And then Gable obviously trying to do the same thing, trying to win a national championship, going to class, and then trying to get ready for the Olympics as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out for Gable. I think I don't know if I should say this, but it almost looks like he's saving himself because he'd rather win a gold medal
I don't know
at
what
Tokyo.
it is about him, but like I told you, he wasn't a pinner, and you look at me like, how can he not be? Look at him, but he is a takedown guy. He's looking for the takedowns. He'll tech foul if you can, and if he just happens to catch you, bam.
Yeah,
but he's 13-0 right now, and
so I shouldn't complain, is what you're trying to tell
well,
me?
no, but he's in a strange situation. There was, against Ohio State, he needed 6. And he really, it would have been nice for them to come out in the middle of the match. He really could have. That sets the pace. The fact of it is that if you have a closer at heavyweight, now it doesn't matter. He wrestled third the last time. Yeah. So he had a closer. You got a guy, Ryan Thomas. Well, he's fine, 157. But Young beat the heck out of him, and that took care of that,
Yeah, it was.
Well, it did 5-4. So
Iowa is definitely the #1 team in the nation.
They are.
Penn State obviously is close right behind, but Iowa top to bottom is going to be tough to beat. And like I said, when we get to U.S. Bank in here in about a month, it'll be. As a matter of fact, it'll be 4 weeks from today, I think, if I do the math correctly, that we'll be there. And so looking forward to that. The men's basketball team, I'll be honest with you folks, I watched the second half against Iowa. They were up 55-47 with 5 minutes left, right? Everybody knows the story. I'm sitting in the lazy boy and I'm like, I can close my eyes. This one's in the bank. And I woke up and I looked at the clock and it was tied at, or looked at the TV, it was tied at 55 and there was 1:15 left. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Uncle Paul's texting me, this is going wrong.
This is going wrong.
And it went wrong. And Iowa scores the last 11 points. The Gophers don't score a point in the last 5:25 of the game and lose in a game that I said here last week they could not lose if they wanted to make the NCAA tournament.
They ran for that 8-0 run, and everything was going good. And it's 55-47. Hey, this is going to be fine. And then Iowa went on a 13-0 run. And big Luka Garza, I'm telling you, hey, if I'm 1.4% Neanderthal, he's got to be 10 or 12%. But he is really amazing under there. He just hammers people.
Yeah, he probably got the better of Oturu on Sunday. But hey, those days are going to happen. He's a great player. He's going to play at the next level in some form or fashion. And then of course the Gophers last night led Indiana by 3.5, and they peed that one away as well. And I was listening to WCCO on the way home last night after 10 o'clock because I didn't watch any of the game, and they were basically calling for Richard Pitino's head, and I think the loss last night that put the nail in the coffin. That will seal the deal. He is.
You think he's gone?
He's done.
You're not the first one that said that today.
He had his chance, and I don't know if I read it on Twitter or in the newspaper today, the Star Tribune, but they were talking about that the team looked tired. And I'll say this: when you got your back against the wall and you're up against that number, you're on that bubble. You got to go out there and you got to pour it on in the games, and you got to pour it on in practices. And so sometimes you're practicing so hard that when the games come around, you run out of steam at the end. And I think Carr's been playing 37 minutes, Oturo's been playing about 36, and Kelcher's been playing 34. And like it or not, tell me that they're 20-year-old kids, blah, 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 blah.
No, you got to give them a break. That's a way too many minutes.
He rode his horses. And he rode them as long as he could, but I think they're beat down.
What he has is a real weak bench.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And they're young, and they're coming on. And, I watched this one, Ahern, come in. He's from, the kid's 6'9", about 200 pounds, so he's a string bean. He's from Germany, and he comes in, and he played about 15 minutes against Iowa and got a few rebounds, got a couple of buckets. Didn't see him again the rest of the game. And then in the same way it happened against Indiana last night. And he comes in and I'm thinking, this is the first time I've seen this kid play all year. And he obviously has talent. He runs the floor really well, has a beautiful three. Not that they need one, but the threes have been killing them, and there's just been no consistency. But you know about shooting threes. They got to have legs underneath them to do it.
Absolutely.
And so I'm not sure that's going to happen. But I'll tell you, the game against Northwestern is huge. They're still going to have to go into Northwestern.
You're still holding hope?
Well, I know, but I'm going to just say.
Everybody keeps saying the Big Ten's going to get 10 teams into the NCAA tournament, and I'm like, okay, fine, but they're not going to take Minnesota with an under 500 record unless they win the Big Ten tournament.
Unless they win the Big Ten tournament. They are
not going to take this team if they're under 500. Overall record, he could be under 500.
And I
Big
talked
Ten.
to the guru about
what did the guru say? I'm dying.
I says, would you consider them for the NIT? And he says, NIT isn't going to take teams that are under 500 either. He says, you just don't all of a sudden say, I didn't make the show, I want to be here. And he said so. And then there were some even lesser tournaments, but Patino said no, he didn't want to go to any lesser tournaments. So they kind of got it in a shell. But I'm going to be watching Sunday's game because they're going to play Northwestern. They can win this game at Northwestern, where a lot of teams, good teams, have not.
And if they lose there, will everybody concede? Will everybody say that
Yes.
Patino's done as well? It's just to me.
I'm going to tell you right now, on Saturday, Gopher baseball starts at U.S. Bank.
They played
and
4 games.
They play 4 games down there. So baseball season's here. It's the eternal spring,
Yeah, they beat Arizona basically in their backyard. Michigan moved up to number 1.
Yeah.
First time a Big Ten team has ever been ranked number 1 in the baseball poll ever.
In the wintertime, that's quite a bit.
Ever. How I was stunned. I'm
Well,
like,
they're going to play Texas Christian coming in. That has got to be some baseball players there.
Absolutely. The Gophers have got a very tough schedule. They played Pepperdine last week. Their schedule is very tough. The women's softball team played last weekend, played top 10. They had lost to Missouri 2 weekends ago. This past weekend, they beat them 10-1 in 6 innings. They beat Florida State, who was ranked number 5 in the nation. They also lost to Oklahoma State, who was ranked in the top 20. But the Gopher women's softball team is going to be just fine, and the baseball team is got some good stuff going for it. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. Did you watch any of the women's basketball game against Michigan State?
I did, yeah. And
how did you fare? I tried.
My wife had tears in her eyes by the end of the night, and but we watched it, and we were kind of pulling for them, but they don't have enough sauce for that.
They're WNIT bound as well, and so overall for the winter sports, tough week for the winter sports. The spring sports didn't do too bad.
But I want to correct you on one. Go for hockey.
I don't want to talk about Gopher hockey because they're second-class citizens to the real teams like Mankato and North Dakota and the UNB Bulldogs. So.
Well, yeah, and that's true. But these guys, they beat Notre Dame.
I don't even consider Minnesota hockey a sport anymore because nobody will go watch them. So I mean, to be considered a sport, somebody's got to go watch you. But keep going. I'm sorry.
Okay. Anyway. They got a young man, he's a sophomore, Blake McLaughlin. You heard of this guy?
I've heard of this kid before.
He's from Grand Rapids, just down the road down there. Yeah. And he is kicking butt and taking names.
He is.
And everybody is just real pleased with how old Blake is doing. Now, this weekend they're going to Penn State. And Penn State they'll probably be tied for the conference.
Correct.
That's what they're working right now. So they're going to play a couple games, and This time of year, college hockey gets really interesting.
Well, yeah, because we're coming down to the end, and
Right down to the wire.
everybody's looking for an edge and looking for that seeding and
And a hot goaltender. I mean,
a hot goaltender.
No, I heard this other story today that Bemidji and MSU were starting another league,
Ah, yes.
and this is
Well, they got tired of traveling to Alaska and to Alabama. These teams, so they're going to tear the WCHA down. They're going to blow it up, and they're going to reinvent it as the CCHA, which they blew up like when the Big Ten came around, and NCHC. So you're going to see 7 of the teams from the WCHA kind of regroup and reform with a couple of teams that are sitting out there and form the CCHA in a couple of seasons. And
WCHA, what are they going to do with that?
it's gone. It'll be gone. The women's will still be there, but the men.
UMD and Michigan Tech and
UMD's in the NCHC. They're in the so they'll everything's
Michigan
good.
Tech and Northern will go.
They'll be in the CCHC. Yeah, CCHA. So they'll go that way. And to be honest with you, not only was the travel to Alaska bad, but the Alaskan teams had kind of talked about, should we be doing this anymore? Is it cost prohibitive for us to be doing this? And of course, Alabama, Huntsville came in when everything was reorganized, and they tried to get their program up, but it just didn't work. So you might see the Alaskas get along with Arizona State and Alabama, and you might see something happen out west, so that they have a conference out there.
To Huntsville, which has got to be a long trip for these guys.
Long trip, and so we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how this all pans out. And I did write down the pairwise. North Dakota is the #1 team in the nation right now. Mankato's 2, right behind them, and of course the pairwise is what they go by to seed everybody.
Yeah.
And so UMD's at 4 right now with Cornell at 3, and they were talking that UMD, who had the weekend off last weekend, they get to go to Western Michigan, which for some reason Western Michigan always causes them problems on the road. I'm not exactly sure why, but the Dogs had a week off to get healed up a little bit, and we'll see if they can get a couple of wins out there. Obviously that would help North Dakota right now out in front of UMD by 8 points in the conference. I don't think North Dakota is going to get caught as far as that, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not really too concerned if we do catch them. Regular season championships are nice. Playoff championships are nice. Get into the dance. That's the big thing for everybody right now. But we'll see what happens there.
And with hockey, so much can happen. You get a hot goaltender, you get a couple of goals ahead, you get a freaky penalty, and score a goal off it. It's a lot of the weird things can happen.
Absolutely.
So number 4 can beat number 1 and happen a lot easier than basketball.
Absolutely, and North Dakota got 2 wins over Denver last week after UMD had beaten Denver 2 games a couple of weeks ago. So some people might say Denver's reeling a little bit, but we'll see. They'll be there in the end. The NCHC will have their share teams. The Big Ten, as you mentioned, with the Gophers, very, very close. Everybody's battling for the top spots. So right now, if things played out right and all the playoffs went the right way, the Gophers are right on the edge of making it into the tournament. So it's going to be a fun last few weeks of the college hockey season. I know there's some people out there that don't like it because it's a little too structured, it's a little too boring, it's a little too tight. But that's college.
Right.
That's college hockey. It's competitive to me, and obviously with the Dogs winning the title the last couple of years. There's a lot more
in college hockey, more than even the pros. The game goes to the best skaters, and on these wide rinks, and they don't want to take a penalty in the third period of a championship game.
No,
you don't want to. So what they wind up doing is back checking and forward checking their little buns off, and it makes for a great game. I love college hockey this time of year.
Yeah, so that's good there. Of course, women's hockey, they're coming down to their final week of the regular season this weekend, and they'll get their playoff started. UMD gets #1 in the nation, Wisconsin. UMD sitting, I think, about 8 right now in the pairwise, and the top 8 only in women's hockey make it. So the Dogs are on the bubble. Getting 1 win at home against Wisconsin this weekend would go a long way in helping the Dogs secure a spot, but we'll see what happens.
Sure.
Let's see. UND also lost men's college hockey. They got St. Cloud State this weekend, so it ought to be interesting to see what happens there. Have you been following UND basketball at all?
Well, not lately. I haven't started.
The women's team went undefeated at home this year, and with a week to go, have won the Northern Division.
Wow.
Not too shabby.
No, at all.
UND, the men's team got a Division I transfer in. He scored 45 points last week in a game last Saturday at home.
That's what we call a transfer.
That's a good transfer, and of course they've got a couple of good ones. And the UMD men have played very, very well. They're at Crookston, 2 games that both those should win, and then they get BSU on Saturday. And if I wasn't going down to watch 4 hockey games on Saturday afternoon at Amsoil, I would probably be making my way to Bemidji to, yes, I said Bemidji, to watch the Dogs and the Beavers play. But well, you got to make choices in life, George.
You do.
You just have to.
Now, one thing I like about that UMD basketball team, they have young Mr. Huso from Virginia playing on that.
Correct.
Whose father was born and raised in this town, and I saw him get into a game, and he did a really good job.
He can hold his own.
He did. And, people just think, well, that's just small college basketball. Well, I'm going to tell you, when you're a senior and you played 4 years of college basketball, you're pretty good. And, for us amateurs, we can't tell that between that and the Division I player, they're just that good.
It's Thursday today, and today the Bronco boys swimming and diving, about an hour into their preliminary meet down at Hibbing, and the section finals on Saturday in Hibbing. So their season is winding down, and of course we talked about high school wrestling. The team's competition was last week in the sections. This week it's the individuals. Next week is the state tournament, and of course the girls' state hockey tournament going on right now. And Northern Minnesota got some good news yesterday as both Cloquet Esco Carleton, who ended the Broncos season from Section 7, and War Road, who gave up 4 goals for the first time and won at a state tournament hockey game yesterday. They beat Wilmer 7-4. Coach Marvin was not happy with his defense. He told the girls that they were playing Sunday Night League defense, and that if they expected to be playing in a championship game on Saturday, they better tighten things up. So Cloquet will play War Road on Friday at 11 o'clock in the morning. So I suspect that game might be on my computer in the background while we're getting kids.
Last year, everything was streamed. I was able to watch pretty much the entire wrestling tournament, and you can pick out your thing. So the way they're streaming is pretty good.
If you're wondering where that's at, it's at prepspotlight.tv. And you go to there and you click on the games, and they got announcers that are pretty good, and the camera works.
Cameras all over the place.
They do a good job, and at least you can see what's going on and keep a track. I mean, I've got it on my computer in the background, and we're working, and the kids want to know what's going on. So it is state tournament time, and as we progress through the next 5 or 6 weeks, we'll keep heading through there. Girls basketball, the Broncos got 2 regular season games left. Tonight they play Deer River in their final home game, and then they go play Duluth Marshall, on Saturday afternoon. And then probably next Thursday they're probably going back to Marshall to play them in the first round of the playoffs. So that's next Thursday, the 27th, that the girls will get their playoff season started. And then of course the boys basketball, they still got a week left in their regular season. They host Deer River on Friday night at home. They go to Marshall on Saturday, so they play at Marshall, both girls and boys. So they play junior varsity, varsity, junior varsity, varsity.
Yeah, we did that once.
Back to back in Duluth on Saturday, and then the boys will look to finish up. Boys on a 2-game winning streak as they beat Southridge last week. I was actually at Southridge to watch the game. Jet Tomzak was throwing threes in from every which way. He made 7 out of 14 threes.
Oh, Jet.
Scored 29 points, so a very good night for him. And then they beat Two Harbors on Monday, and they'll have their hands full with Deer River. You want to go watch a team that likes to shoot the 3-ball? Deer River likes to shoot the 3-ball, so you'll see.
Do you reckon any of those guys we saw play football or on the basketball team?
I think a couple of those kids, those names would be familiar, but I think you'd also see some of those kids that are wrestlers for Deer River, because Deer River lost in the section final, in the team final, 33-30, I think, last Friday. So they were right on the edge.
Who did they lose to?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I don't remember.
Okay.
I saw it on the guillotine, and I can't remember who it was. Anyway, they obviously I think that's part of the deal there, and so so the Bronco sports are winding down, and March 9th is not that far away, and guess what starts then? Baseball can have the catchers and do conditioning, and the pitchers and the catchers can report. Softball starts, and track gets all started on the 9th, and golf gets started on the 16th. So we're just a couple of weeks away from the spring sports getting into full swing, and so it's been an interesting.
This winter season flies by. It really does.
And I'm glad it does, because winter can be a tough time, and we have to finish up by talking about the Bronco boys hockey team. They lost in the quarterfinals to Eveleth. They were the 5 seed against the number 4 seed Eveleth Gilbert, Mesabi East Cherry to be official, and the Golden Bears ended up beating the Broncos by a score of 5-1, and so the Broncos went 13-12-1 on the season, and losing a boatload of seniors.
Good seniors.
So I know the cupboard is emptied on one end, but there will be kids that will be coming up off the Bantam team that will step into those roles and do that, and we'll see what head coach George McDonald does. I know he had his retirement accepted the other night at the school board meeting, I believe, so you would kind of think that maybe that means that there's a new head coach, and you would think that maybe Chad Baldwin might be the guy who's been groomed, and
he's worked hard at that.
He has worked very hard at it, and he could be one of those guys that I think is ready for the task, and I think will probably get to step into that role and get to put his name in the list of great Bronco hockey coaches. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And before I leave high school, because I see you got your
I got stuff, yeah.
We got those 4 hockey games that I mentioned on Saturday, the 4 semifinals. Of course, in AA, you got Andover and Forest Lake. The Andover, the number 1 seed, and pretty much the prohibitive favorite to win it all. But they've been in this spot before and cannot seem to win the big game at Amsoil. They play at noon on Saturday. Then Grand Rapids avoids Cloquet Esco Carlton, who lost in the quarters, got upset in overtime. So Grand Rapids plays at 2 o'clock, and then Hermantown, the number 1 seed in Class A, they get Eveleth Gilbert at the 6 o'clock game, and then the game that I think everybody really is looking forward to the most, GNK Greenway takes on Duluth Denfeld in the 2-3 game in Class A at about 8 o'clock on Saturday night. And
say what you will about that Greenway, but they put out some hockey pucks, don't they?
They put out some hockey.
Year in and year out, they really do.
Yeah, and this Denfeld game with them is going to be very, very even, a contrast in styles where Greenway can go a little more up-tempo. Denfeld likes to maybe muck it up a little bit and play a little more physical, so it'll be a contrast in styles, and it's going to be a great game, and I'm looking forward to it like you can't believe.
Hey,
gotta scratch those itches this time of the year. Get to some tournament games.
You really do. Like I say, you're a sports freak, no doubt about it.
There's no doubt about that. Well, you got NASCAR up there.
I tell you what. No, that's just kind of a mention, but I sometimes
Did you watch it?
The accident? I did.
Yeah, It was Monday night when they started on Sunday and then got delayed because of the rain. And so Monday night, what the heck did I have to do on Monday? I did something on Monday. What I did? Oh, it was President's Day.
It was.
And Eli and I went over and watched the Fort Francis Lakers because I hadn't been to a Lakers game yet this year. So the game got done about 4:30. I came home. We whipped up supper and blah, blah, blah. And I ran downstairs. I had papers to correct for Tuesday. And I sat down and I started to correct them. And I'm flipping through the channels and I'm like, oh, there's Daytona. And I'm like, oh, they're already into the second overtime, so they're just cleaning everything up. So I got to watch the last 2 laps, and when Ryan Newman went airborne, I screamed at the TV, and Eli came running, and I waited for him to come down, and they showed him the accident. He was just.
It was incredible.
It was horrific.
It's just like some other extension grabbed that car and wrung it out. And I mean, they thought they first releases about Newman was he's going to survive. Well, 3 days later he's walking out, signing autographs. He can hardly wait to go to the next one. I tell you, I was down at Daytona when the race was going on. I have never actually seen so many people in one spot in my life. They were camped out for miles around, and 100,000 people go in to watch this thing, and you can hear it. It's really a rackety sound, you know. It's really quite amazing.
I've never been to a big stock car race like that. That's something that I will have to do before I take my dirt nap, and we'll see if we can get that done. But yeah, quite the race, second closest in history, probably won by this much as the car was flipping over behind them. It was pretty exciting in that respect, and thankfully nobody really seriously hurt. I mean, and dying. So you know, NASCAR needs a bump, and I used to watch NASCAR a lot, and I say that I can't watch it anymore because I don't like all the gimmicky stuff that they're doing, and they're talking about all the gimmicky stuff that they're doing in baseball, and you know, maybe it's just because I'm old, but the traditional things are just, hey, let's go race around. You know, it's Daytona. They're gonna go 500 miles.
Back to the basics.
Go run around the track 167 times, and don't be giving me all this other stuff.
Remember, this stuff started by booze cars, and you know, and that's where the top drivers in the 40s and 50s came from. So. But anyway, I want to ask you this. The football owners are meeting today, I believe, for a new contract that is going to change up the playoff schedule, and they would cut down exhibition games by one and add another game to the regular season, making it 17 games, and they would have 7 teams in the playoffs and only have one get a bye as opposed to 2.
So I was going to ask a silly question, why? But of course the reason's money. But I understand adding a 7th team brings in more money. But so now when we get to that first weekend and there's 6 games to be played, we're going to put 3 on Saturday, and we're going to put 3 on Sunday, right? I just...
Well, you know, it's like one sports writer says, why are you fixing something that's not broke?
Thank you. That's a great way of putting it.
And that was just the great way. It took us a while for us to figure out this whole thing. We all know the champions all get a bye and they all go according to it. But that's the first thing I see. Well, what they're trying to do is accommodate people that think that the exhibition season is too long, which it probably is.
Yeah, and that I get. The exhibition games have become totally useless as far as I'm concerned, unless you're trying to be the 52nd guy that gets onto the squad. Then it's a big deal. Then it's a huge deal. But if you look at the exhibition games as we're going to get Kirk Cousins ready for the season, that ship has sailed.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be real easy for the number 7 seed to play the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed and come out there the winner. It's just not going to happen.
So we look at it. Pittsburgh, maybe 10 years ago, 9 years ago, made their run from the number 6 spot. The Packers, about a dozen years ago, made their run from the number 6 spot. I think over the last 6 seasons, only 1s and 2s have made it to the Super Bowl. So bringing number 7 in, to me, is whatever. Now maybe this will make the end of the season more interesting, although I don't know how it could be, because somebody's going to be the number 1 seed and only be the only team to get a week off.
Yeah.
Which, well, for the Baltimore Ravens was pointless, right? I'm not trying to be whatever.
The Ravens in particular,
it didn't work out so well for them. So to me, I don't see adding the 7th team as being something good. I understand that adding the 17th game, maybe. I still like the idea that we propose, that PTI proposed the week of the Super Bowl. Okay, we play 17 games, but you can only play in 14 of them. Everybody's going to get 3 additional weeks off to rest their bodies, and you can decide whether you're going to play them against, and of course that's going to tick ticket holders off, but they can still get their rest. And of course we've seen it done obviously in baseball, but baseball is a totally different animal, but we're seeing it more in basketball. You don't see it quite as much in hockey, but you see these rest games where all of a sudden LeBron needs, we're going to give him a rest. Well, I know in football you only got 16 or 17 games and you don't really have a chance to rest, but What are they going to do to make sure everything's going to occur right? And it's going to be interesting to see when the XFL gets done this spring.
Yeah,
Does the NFL adopt some of these, like the kickoff thing? I could see could be a big deal to the NFL. I think that is something that it seems a little gimmicky to us traditionalists.
Yeah.
But to me, if they are really truly concerned about safety and doing things quote unquote the right way, that is a big one right there that will take horrendous collisions out of the mix. And I think that's one that the NFL will someday adopt.
I think that they would probably give you a couple of more players, but I don't think that's going to make a lot of difference. You want 5 or 6 players, including a couple of really good linemen. I mean, this has to be, if you're going to give these guys any break, because, hey, at the end of the season, they got to be shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what, well, the season's long enough. We talked about the CFL plays 18 games. And they do it with even smaller squads, and I don't know how they pull it off, but they do, and they find a way. What else you got for me?
I gotta bring up.
Go ahead.
Here I got an offensive lineman plays for Cleveland. In the last 2 years, he's made $7 million. He's 6'5", 330 pounds. Played at Auburn. Was a second round draft pick, and he got busted on the Mexican border with 157 pounds of marijuana. Now, I'm wondering if maybe this isn't a little of that brain damage that I hear so much about, because this guy, he didn't have to do this.
Well, therein lies the question. Why?
Why?
Did you need a thrill? Because you can't need the money.
No.
I don't know.
But it really caught my attention, and he drafted by the Rams, traded to the Lions for a 6th-round pick in 2017. He really hasn't brought it together, except for the Browns. He was a right tackle all year long. And he was traveling with another wide receiver. Now, I don't know who Quan Gray is, unless he's on some thing, but they are now facing some serious. You can't do that across international borders.
You cannot. I don't think you heard it here first, but you can't do that, people. That's wrong. It's illegal.
And I'm taking the rest of this from Pete Blackburn. He writes out this CBS information sheet all the time, and he says Robinson's future in the NFL might not be exactly the first thing on his mind right now, considering his next job will be blocking for Paul Crewe. And so Paul Crewe is from Longest Yard, where Paul Crewe is the quarterback that plays for the prison team. And so, this is hitting all the airwaves, and this type of thing, you kind of just got to wonder, my God, what are you thinking? One other little piece of information, we spoke of Joe Burrow all along. Well, the Cincinnati Bengals have been suffering and doing whatever they've been doing to make sure they got a shot at him, and people are telling him, don't go there. And he says, well, what do you do? Well, you are a very, very strong asset, and there's really nothing that they can do to stop you from turning them down. Well, of course, the Bengals, they're not happy with this. And and the idea is, he says, I'd probably be angry too if I played for a sucky, tanking team all year just so that the top pick could be like, nah, I'm good, thanks, and just walk out. So they're starting to get some feel. But what Cincinnati did last year, I don't know, a lot of people said it wasn't right.
Yeah, it isn't.
Yeah.
It's kind of on the other end of cheating, and maybe other end of the spectrum. But I always felt a grudge against John Elway for what he did, and I don't want to see Joe Burrow do what John Elway did and basically say, I'm not going to play. I'm not going to play in Baltimore. We ended up in Indianapolis. I'm not going to go there because, and then he ends up with Denver. And of course, we found out what kind of GM he is. He hasn't done very, very well. Although Denver was good for a lot of years and probably had some later round draft picks. That's another argument for another day.
Yeah.
But I've always held a grudge against people who try to do that. Go into the league, play for who you get drafted by, and then. That's why they got free agency. You keep always bringing up Curt Flood. Well, that's what. So you go do your time, if you want to call it that, and then you can go play for whoever you want to. You can go play for the Saints if Drew Brees by that time has decided that he's going to retire or something. So because he's coming back. He said this week he's coming back.
Well, no,
at age 41, I'm coming back.
Well,
let's make another run.
From time to time, he looks pretty good, and then it's
absolutely.
And Brady is Brady a year older. He's going to come back too, and he's going to play for somebody.
He's going to play for somebody. Can't wait till that first domino falls so we can find out what the heck's going to go.
When they start doing all this drafting stuff, I ran into a little article about a two-way race for the NBA most valuable player. Now I really aren't too worried about that, but there's some names here.
You're going to try to say that first one?
Giannis Antetokounmpo. And
that's not too bad. You did pretty good. I won't even try it because I'm going to butcher it. I've actually
an incredible name.
I've actually tried to say it.
Yeah.
I've tried to learn how to say it. I've heard it pronounced too many different ways. I can't do it.
Antetokounmpo.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then there's Luka Doncic. He is a good basketball player. I kind of
did you hear what Luke Walton said to him?
No.
So Luke Walton's the head coach for Sacramento, right? So Doncic is walking down the court and he yelled out to him, "Hey, why don't you say something nice to the referees? They're your biggest fan." And the referees heard him and, of course, teed him up and sent him on his way. And so, it was Luke's way of saying, "Hey, you're getting some calls." He's a very good basketball player. He really, really is. And, of course, he's deserving of those things. If he's already getting the calls, then you know that he's worthy of being in the MVP talk.
Do you think LeBron ever gets any calls?
Ish. Did you watch any of the All-Star game?
I tried to watch part of it, but
you did. You actually turned it on.
I didn't understand the rules.
You want to talk about gimmicks?
Yeah. I'm not quite sure where it is. But I really didn't understand what they were talking about, and I just thought, this is a tribute to Kobe. Okay, whatever you want to do, that's fine. But let's play basketball. Who puts the ball in the hole the most wins?
And nobody plays defense, so I can't do it. I won't do it anymore. No more All-Star games. Get rid of them.
I saw them back out as opposed to put their arms up. And these guys put their arms up. They're pretty tall.
Yeah, and we don't. I understand. We don't want to get anybody hurt. Well, we don't want to get anybody hurt. Let's put those games on the shelf and let's worry about something.
I just want to know. Somebody has already gone through and added who has the toughest schedules for next year. We start off with the Patriots, Jets, Dolphins, 49ers, and Bills.
Four of those 5 teams are all in the same division.
Yes, they are.
So I think they're trying to tell me that the Jets and the Bills and the Patriots are some of the top teams in the NFL.
Here's the easiest schedule. Ravens, Steelers, Cowboys, Browns, and the Redskins.
3 of those 5 are in the same division.
Exactly.
So they're trying to say that the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Browns aren't very good. I guess I can understand maybe, but the Ravens shouldn't have an easy schedule. They got to go play the number ones out of all the other divisions in their conference. So I'm not sure about that one, but we'll see.
I didn't look up the best Major League Baseball players for at every age, but I probably should have. Stephon Diggs. They said that he took all his Vikings photos down from his Instagram page.
Bye, Stephon.
Oh, and I heard today that Stephan's still gonna.
Oh, that's just Stephon being Stephon. No, come draft time.
Yeah.
He's going to be traded with something so that the Vikings can move up and get a better draft pick.
2 games I want you to pay attention to
2?
tonight.
Just 2?
Well, no, there's a couple of them here, but Ohio State and Iowa.
Should be a dandy.
That's at 7 o'clock. That's a ESPN channel. And hockey game for this. Lightning and the Golden Knights. Should be a dandy.
Wild, as long as you brought it up, Wild played last night out in Vancouver, and the new kid that they got from Pittsburgh in the trade of Zucker scored the game-tying goal late in the game, and then scored the game winner in the shootout.
Whoa.
And to put a little International Falls touch to it, it's Dad's week, it's Dad's trip, so all the dads of all the players get to go with. And of course, Bob Mason, their father has passed away, so Bill gets to go on the trip.
The bum.
So Bill is standing next to Galchenyuk. I'm not saying that right.
Yeah.
Anyway, him and his dad are standing right next to each other. So, of course, when he scored the game-tying goal, there's Bill there, and they're talking about he could step into the goalie meetings, and the goalies probably wouldn't even know if it was Bill or Bob. No, they probably wouldn't. And then, of course, he scores the game winner in the shootout, and so there's Bill all over the TV. And so I texted him and said, "You're getting more TV time than Trump is."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, you just got to be standing right next to the right
yes,
people."
Yes, you do. Now, I'm going to tell you and this is an impulsive story, but the boys told me, or I heard this story.
Aren't we all impulsive?
They were about in 6th grade, and they decided mother decided that they should be in different classes, and so they thought, what if we just trade classes? Do you think they'd figure it out? And I says, well, how long did you do it for? A week. Did anybody figure out? Nobody ever knew. And you could see these two little kids because, hey, they're a bit mischievous, to see them both pulling.
Well, everybody says it's easy to tell them apart. Well, I mean, if you don't concentrate on what you're doing, you can screw it up. I can say because I've done it, but
no. And I've said to Bill, I says, geez, I saw a picture of your brother on the website. He's really a good-looking guy, isn't he?
Absolutely.
There was a score last night. NC State knocked off Duke, and Duke dropped in the thing. But I just love seeing that. I watched the tail end of it, and I just thought, there is life in this world.
There is.
NC State, they're going to probably wind up in the show, and they had a lousy start to the season, and they come up and wrap off number 6 Duke 88-66. And any other scores? Seton Hall beat Butler, which I understand was a dandy game, and Georgia knocked off Auburn.
All good stuff.
So these are
this
good
time of the year, it's been good. Of course, Twins get started with spring baseball on Saturday, their first spring training game against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and our former bench coach in Shelton, he's the manager now for the Pirates, so we'll get things started on Saturday with some live baseball, and of course we're only 5 weeks away from the season opener, as the Twins will start on March 26th.
March 26th.
That's the first game for Major League Baseball is on the 26th of March, which, if I remember right, is a Thursday. So we'll see.
I've got one last thing.
Final story. Yes.
Final story. This is Carter Gloflin, and he with Tyler Johnson, Camille Martin, and Antoine Winfield Jr. have all been invited to Indianapolis. I think it's this weekend. Starts this weekend.
I think it started today.
337 athletes. Now, Tim, there's going to be some guys down there, pretty good athletes. But here it is, legendary Gopher, Carter Gloflin, played in 49 career games. One of the best ever to wear the maroon and gold. And I'll tell you, I wish that kid a lot of luck. He's from Eden Prairie, I believe, so he must have been one of Mike's buddies over there, and so hey, he was a fine athlete, and he was there all the time.
Yep.
And so I'm pulling for him.
Pulling for him, absolutely.
No, I'll tell you what, the Minnesota is going to give us little perspectives on just how they're doing, because somebody's going to come up with Antoine Winfield, and he's going to play in the Pro Bowl Sunday. He's an amazing athlete.
Takes after his father, right?
He does.
Some of those
Indeed.
genes went in the right direction.
Yeah.
What else you got? Anything?
No, that might be it.
We covered a gamut. I'm sure we forgot something this week, but I got to get to the girls' hockey banquet. They're having it way early this year, and they invited me to come and enjoy some pizza. So I'm going to go take care of that, and and applaud their successes from the season, the things that they did. I know.
So what can Marcy Marquardt do with that talent of hers?
I don't know. Will she go play at Rainy River? Will she try to go someplace else? You know, it's not as easy for girls hockey players to extend their shelf life, if I can use it that way, like the boys can, where they can go play juniors for a couple years and grow and get bigger and stronger and make a name for themselves. The girls don't really have that. And
boy, she does catch your eye out in the ice, though. She's a good size, and she skates well, and she's got a longing to keep that puck out of the net.
Yeah, she was a busy girl this year, and so we'll see what happens there. It'll be interesting to see how things pan out. Well, again, we're going to take next week off, and we'll come back. It'll be March,
and we'll have all kinds of stuff to tell you. I'll have so many
pieces of paper. We'll have to do a double show to make up for Tim.
My wife gets mad at me because our printers runs out of ink.
Run out of ink. It's for a good cause, right?
It is.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.